is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. So let's get right into it. First, we have Strange Woman lying in ponds, distributing swords is no basis for a system of government from Too Spooky on YouTube, and that's a clip from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And I said, when I was younger, I agree with the peasants, but after living through the past decade, I'm willing to try Strange Woman lying in ponds, distributing swords again. You know, ultimately, that all forms of government are ultimately going to be subjective, you know. I personally don't really care for what we have currently, which we have democracy, which is pretty much mob rule, but, you know, I don't really care for monarchy either. With that being said, you know, ultimately, I think everyone should have their own system of government, and if they don't want to feel consent to someone else's, I don't think they should be forced to do so. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then next we have Tim Allen supports the Bruin Scotus ruling of historical tradition of firearm regulation from Chad Muffin, and that's a clip from Last Man Standing, the old show on, I think ABC. Mike cleaning a musket from Last Man Standing from Outdoor Man on YouTube. And I said, yeah, right, you know, he has a pretty long rifle. And I said, rifles used to be so long like that because they used to believe the longer they were, the more accurate they were. I remember going to the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia, and they had like 10 to 15 foot long rifles in there. You know, and I think that's interesting. You know, ultimately, I think, you know, you should be able to use whatever weapon you want. I don't think there's any such thing as an illegal gun, and that's my thoughts on firearm regulation, or whatever they call it. Then we have Senate Republicans recommend legislative action to combat anti-Semitism from nysenate.gov by Frosty Slawman. And I said, Republicans hate censorship, cancel culture, and identity politics until the second that anti-Semitism is brought up, then they love all three. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have DOJ seeks harsher penalty for Ashley Biden diary thief after mishearings from Washington Examiner, and I posted that, and I said, U.S. elections be like, are you going for senile incestuous pedophile A or senile incestuous pedophile B? You know, I personally think, you know, if they want to arrest the person who leaked Ashley Biden's diary, that proves it's real. And in it, she talks about how her father Joe showered with her inappropriately, and I don't think that's, you know, it just goes to show you that. And you know, Trump's not much better. He says, if Ivana weren't my daughter, perhaps, or if I'd be dating her. So you know, that just goes to show you that that you know, ultimately we shouldn't have too much faith in our politicians, I would say. Especially with how bad they are currently. You know, that's why I think we should just get rid of politics. It's all pretty much script anyway. Just let everyone run themselves. You know, I think most people are just fine running themselves. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, where have we seen this before? U.S. collaborates with China to make bird flu more contagious and transmissible to mammals, from Thomas Massey on Twitter. And I posted that, and I said, it's honestly time to stop giving taxpayer money to the so-called quote-unquote science. You know, I think, you know, if scientists want to do studies like this, I think they're personally very dangerous and will probably lead to another pandemic, but I think you should be able to. I just want it not to be taxpayer funded. And that's my thoughts on that issue, you know. Now we have, guys, I figured it out. If you want to break laws, all you gotta do is become rich and powerful. It's that easy, from Mr. Beat on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, people think law is always going to be entirely objective, but a person's social and economic capital have always played a role, not just currently, but throughout history. You know, I don't like Trump, but you know, he's just par for the course in regards to that, I would say, and that's my thought on that issue. Then we have, every one of us should be thrown out. This government is a failure to the American people, from Marjorie Taylor, and that was Marjorie Taylor Greene to Tucker just now for Rant for the Ages from Clint Russell on Twitter, and I said, I don't agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on everything, but she is 100% correct here. You know, I'm just at the point where, you know, throw the whole government out, and let's just start anew. Let's let everyone decide what they want for their government, and if they don't want to consent, I don't think they should be forced to consent. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Nazi Town USA documentary, 1930s German America Bund, from American Experience PBS on YouTube, posted by Far and Chimney. And I think, I personally don't think, we should have any Nazi towns. But I think if people want to, if people want to voluntarily form a Nazi town, I think they should be able to. With that being said, I personally don't think I would move there. Because, I don't think the Nazis are, I think their ideology is very authoritarian, and I don't particularly care for it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we were warned almost 250 years ago from Pat Brown down, and that's across from the Legalized Freedom subreddit. We now have the government our founding fathers warned us of. If you keep ignoring that fact, we will soon not be able to overcome the damage that has been done. This is not about one wing. This is about liberty and freedom. Educate yourself on the principles and values of the foundation of the United States. It's time to reclaim America. And I said, I would agree very much with that. The same people who claim that Trump is an extremely dangerous dictator are completely fine with the government the second he leaves office really makes you think, and that's my thoughts there, I personally think, it's always important to take a stand against the government regardless of how much you agree with them, and that's my thoughts there, we should stand against the government and their authoritarianism and not let them bully us into doing what they want us to do. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Colorado bill banning social media, marijuana, drug posts raises constitutional concerns from dabandad.com by Swamp Yankee Dan. And I said, I didn't call on that one, but ultimately I definitely do think that's a freedom of speech issue. I think people should be able to post whatever they want online, and if you don't like it, you're free not to interact with it, and that's my thoughts on that issue. I guess you could argue there could be some stuff that should be regulated, like child pornography, but even then, I don't think I personally am very against child pornography. But ultimately, if you want to keep that on the deep web and on the dark web, and I'm not force me to look at it, I'm willing to turn the other way. But ultimately, I do think you should have free and open internet without censorship, and that supports free speech, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we still have not yet fully accounted for the madness imposed on society during the COVID years and the way we gaslit and ruined those with the common sense and courage to oppose it, from Melissa Chen on Twitter, and that was her sharing a picture of two I think students playing flutes with a mask with a hole in it, and I said, I don't think it's happening anytime soon, sadly. I always thought the people in masks were instruments spoilers were funny, though. If the thing is, you should be able to think whatever you want, and I think it was definitely hysteria, and that's my thoughts on that issue. It just goes to show you how easy it is to spread hysteria in the age of social media, and I think if you wanted to wear a mask, if you wanted social distance, that's fine. But people were forced to under under penalty of being imprisoned or jailed, and I don't think that's very libertarian. I think the libertarian position on COVID was everyone should be able to react to whatever they wanted to, and that's not how it went down. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the ATF makes the rules. From Chad Muffin, and that's a YouTube video from let's see, King Trout, and he says, the ATF, the guy he's playing says, oh, I want to come for your arm brace, and he says, there's no law for that. The ATF is a law enforcement agency, it can't make laws, and then he replies with well, who says that? And he said, and the guy says to Article 1 of the Constitution, he says, the what? That's just pretty much goes to show you they don't care for the Constitution. They get, ultimately just they can force whatever they want on you. They have the position of state authority and the monopoly on the use of legal force, and that's why you gotta say no. That's not okay. We need to hold the government accountable when they force stuff on us, and that's why I think it's important to take a stand against the state, regardless of who's in the position of state authority currently. Then we have more minimum wage misinformation from Tom 13, and that's a tweet from N Wokeness. On April 1st, California raised the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour. The same day, Foster's Freeze went out of business and laid off all 20 employees. The owner said he was crushed but is unable to sustain the wage hike as a small business owner. Mass layoffs and price hikes have already begun, and we aren't even a week in. And Patam 14 added, figured I posted this from Freedom 14 posted, believing it's the beginning of the end for the California economy. Actually, I shockingly don't have to refute myself. One of the few intellectually honest people who somehow hasn't been mad from our conservative will do it. Our conservatives will do it for me. He links to a comment from our conservative from Eggshare. I know it's fun showing California law only applies to who are fast food restaurant employees under the new law. The law only applies to fast food between zero fast food restaurant, all the below criteria restaurants part of a restaurant chain, at least 60 establishments nationwide. So I guess that's okay. I personally don't think, the state should be raising the minimum wage. I think I saw a good quote from Hannah Cox recently that went along the lines of, instead of forcing the government to raise minimum wage, why aren't we asking why a dollar can purchase more as is? I personally am against minimum wage laws. I don't think corporations should be forced to pay anything, especially if it might lead to them going out of business, like this chain of Foster's Freeze, as M. Wokeness noted. But with that being said, I definitely think we need to let corporations pay what they want, rather than use state force to force them to pay a minimum wage. And that's my thoughts on that issue, Yeah. Then we have Tennessee lawmakers pass bill to require anti-abortion group video or comparable in public schools from apnews.com by Swampy Dan. And I said, as a libertarian, I don't think anything should be required in schools. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I think if schools want to use pro-abortion or anti-abortion propaganda, I think they should be able to, but I don't think it should be required. Ultimately, it's what the students and the parents want, I would say. Then we have Indiana court gives win to group arguing religious freedom, grants them right to abortion from TalkingPointsMemo.com by Swamp Yankee Dan. And I didn't comment on that one, but I definitely think if you want to think you have a right to abortion, I mean, you should be able to. I'm personally more on the pro-choice side. But if you want to do whatever you want with your own body, I think you should be able to, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have transgender attorney Stephanie Mueller, 70, puts on busty display in a skin-tight outfit during court hearing. Remember when I posted that, and I said, frankly, stuff like this is why acceptance for the LGBT community has been falling. The message that led to marriage equality was that they were normal and just like everyone else, but since then it seems like some members want to stand out as much as possible and normalize every single one of their kinks and fetishes. And, as a libertarian, I think that she should be able to dress however she feels like, but however, I and everyone else is entitled to their opinion on how they dress. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I think if you want to go out in public in your birthday suit, I think you should be able to. I've always argued that indecent exposure is a victimless crime. With that being said, I think a lot of people might have an opinion on you doing that, and I think they should be free to share it if they feel like it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Ultimately, dress however you feel like, but, when you have, surgically enhanced, triple D size breasts and a skin-tight outfit that emphasizes them, I think people should be able to make their opinion that that's a little kinky and fetishy known, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Killer Kyle's ex-spokesperson turns on him from crooksandliars.com by Narco Federation, and they added, looks like the cop lover is getting his comeuppance. The most ironic and the most outrageous bit of truth is to come out of ex-professions that Paul Prediger, formerly known as Gage Gershwitz, the man who recorded Now Shot and Wounded, was there as an ACLU observer and to provide medical aid to any who needed it. Contrary to what Rittenhouse and his defense team said in court, he was also the only one on the scene who had a valid concealed carry permit and the only one with medical training. And I said, Rittenhouse was clearly attacked and acted in self-defense per the video footage. I personally don't think he should have been there in the first place, but he fought otherwise. Ultimately, I think he does have the right to self-defense, and that's my thoughts on that issue. I don't think he should be put on a pedestal for using his right to self-defense. But, ultimately, the people were violating the NAP and he had every right to self-defense, I think. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Americans think a president's power should be checked unless their side wins. AP Newark poll finds from PBS. And I posted that and I said, the only standards most people have are double. And, that just goes to show you that people will justify... If the other party's in power, it's all going to be about resistance. But suddenly, when their party's in power, it's all about obeying and not dissenting at all. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.